in January 2016, they popularized this whole concept of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So I've been doing a lot of reading about that. From the beginning, when I heard about it, I realized that the impact for skills and skills development, skills planning is going to be massive. Thank you, that's much better. And it's on. Can you hear me? Okay, so push it up. They really want me to talk into the mic. Okay. So these are the issues that I'm going to be talking about. A bit about the disruptive technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, looking a bit at the future world of work, changes in the nature of work and jobs and so on. Construction industry, I've got some interesting videos for you, specifically on the construction industry, how it's going to impact on your industry. And then very much the skills. What are the skills that we're going to need to thrive in this new world of work? Very interesting listening to the students and listening to the audience, and this gap between what we are training in the new world of work is actually going to become even more. Looking at the failures of our skills development system, I really do believe that our skills development system is not preparing us for this new world of work. I work intensively in that system for about 20 years with the CETAs, with the SAPA, with all those systems. But then we need to say, how are we going to respond? So I've been doing these presentations to public service, to governments, and it's interesting the response. Some people are terribly frightened. Others say we're not going to let it happen. Others say we're going to legislate against the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So it's going to be interesting what your response is going to be. I'm going to talk very quickly, because I think if you listen quickly, then we can get through this. I don't want to skip on the videos. Help me. Here we go. Okay. So this is what people are saying basically about this Fourth Industrial Revolution, is that it's catapulting us into this disruptive technology, that the exponential pace of change is what makes a difference. Not that we haven't experienced change, but it's this exponential pace of change. And that it's impacting everything, the way we work, the way we live. It's going to have a phenomenal impact on all aspects of our life. This information about the Fourth Industrial Revolution you will find under the World Economic Forum. But you see, even that video already talks about this massive transformation in every single industry. So your industry, every single industry will be affected by this, and many have already been affected by it. If you look at these, are examples of new industries that are created specifically because of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The reason why Uber can be Uber and give us the service that they provide is because of this technology. Uber, as they say, is the world's largest taxi company, but it doesn't own any taxis. YouTube is the world's largest distributor of videos, but it doesn't actually make any videos. And this is all due to the technology of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. But what the previous video also already started alerting to was massive joblessness, massive inequality in society. We already have that in our society. How is this going to impact us in South Africa? Financial Man had a wonderful article, which is the actual truth, and that's robots are coming for your job, they're coming for my job, they're coming for all of our jobs. Because none of our jobs in the next 5 or 10 years will be unaffected by robots. Here's an example. If you go to Dubai at the moment, they are busy replacing 25% of their security staff at the airport. They're replacing with these robots. They are connected to Interpol. They do voice recognition. They do eye recognition. I don't know whether they quite can arrest you at this stage, but they don't ask for a raise. They don't sleep. They don't go on strike. So a massive impact on society. So I'm going to now show you a few of the videos specifically on construction. And while watching them, I'd like you to think about these questions. So what is the impact of that on work, on jobs, on occupations, the kind of occupations that these students are preparing themselves for and for which we are preparing people at our universities? What are these skill sets that people will need? Because technology is going to do a lot of the work that we are used to doing. Social impact, I'm not going to talk a lot about that because we don't have time, but the massive social impact in South Africa. That's why I've really been raising these concerns that we need to actually confront. What are we going to do about this? To say that we're not going to let it happen or we are going to legislate against it, I don't actually think that is quite the right response. So then you yourselves, individually, your children, I'm talking to my grandchildren, talking to my children, how are you yourself and your family and your workers, how are you going to prepare for them? So let's watch some of these videos. Enjoy. Just now.
Rapid developments in robotics and artificial intelligence are ushering in a new age that could profoundly change the way we live. From smart houses to self-driving cars, the applications of AI and robotics are virtually limitless. The construction industry is by no means immune to these developments. It's an incredibly exciting time for our sector, as numerous pioneers and research teams develop robotic technology to take over dangerous or highly repetitive tasks, improving quality, productivity, and efficiency. Here, we delve into the roles that robots are starting to play in construction and look at how they will affect our industry in the future. Before we start, it's important to be clear on the difference between a machine and a robot. While all robots are machines, not all machines are robots. Ultimately, what sets a robot apart from a machine is its ability to be programmed to undertake complex tasks and to operate, at the very least, on a semi-autonomous level. While a worker lifting a heavy load with an exoskeleton might appear robotic, the process is still controlled and operated by the worker. The same can be said for drones. Though they are able to carry out a series of tasks, at present, most commercially available drones are controlled remotely and are able to perform those tasks without human interaction. Arguably, the most prevalent type of construction robot at the moment is the mechanical arm. While stationary versions of these robots have been in operation in factories and on manufacturing assembly lines for years, portable adaptations are now being developed for use in all manner of tasks on construction sites. Able to be programmed to perform a range of repetitive and labour-intensive activities, such as moving materials, tying rebar, building masonry walls, and even 3D printing structures, these robots are said to have a huge impact on the industry, reducing accidents and greatly increasing productivity. One particularly prominent example is Odico Formwork Robotics, who have developed a robot that uses hot wire cutting to develop complex double-curved concrete moulds. Traditionally, this time-consuming and costly process was used sparingly in construction. Now, these robots can be programmed to create intricate formwork molds with a higher degree of accuracy than a human worker and in a fraction of the time, unlocking complex designs and helping to make them a reality. This particular robot looks set to work on Zaha Hadid Architects' Lushan Primary School project in China. Meanwhile, in bricklaying, SAM 100, developed by Construction Robotics, claims to be the world's first commercially available robot for on-site masonry construction. There's also Hadrian X, developed by Fast Brick Robotics, that can 3D print and lay bricks, completing the superstructure of a conventional masonry home in just 2 days. In the world of steel reinforcement, TieBot, a robot developed by Advanced Construction Robotics, has been trialled tying rebar on a bridge project in Pennsylvania, one of the first examples of a robot undertaking activity on a live construction site. There are also rapid developments coming out of ETH Zurich's National Centre for Competence and Research, Digital Fabrication in Switzerland. Researchers here have developed in-situ fabricators that can build masonry walls, construct steel reinforcement structures, and even assemble timber frame buildings. Robots are also entering construction in the form of autonomous rovers, equipped with high-definition cameras and sensors that allow them to navigate their way around sites. Able to identify and avoid obstacles, robots such as Effibot, developed by French robotics firm Evidence, can follow workers carrying tools and materials. Even more advanced is this rover by Doxel, that uses high-definition cameras and light imaging detection and ranging, or LiDAR sensors, to carry out building site inspections, comparing progress with design models and programs. Moving things up a gear, complete autonomous vehicles and plant are able to transport materials or undertake specific tasks in accordance with design models. Activities like excavation or grading can be carried out around the clock without the need for breaks, greatly enhancing efficiency and reducing costs. Prominent examples include Volvo's HX1 dumper and this autonomous dozer developed by Built Robotics. While we are only just beginning to see what robotics could do for construction, there are already more advanced robots in development that could one day replace humans in certain industries and job roles altogether. Whilst this might sound daunting, the rise of robotics and indeed artificial intelligence is likely to lead to the creation of new job roles and opportunities that we haven't yet imagined. If you enjoyed this video and would like to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, subscribe to the B1 app.
This one then shows a house fully built through 3D printing.
The walls of this house were printed entirely on site. This is the world's first actually printed house. With the advent of Appy's core technology, construction 3D printing opens a new round of evolution thanks to the innovative design of the printer. Appy's core technology consists of a mobile construction 3D printer and an automatic mix and supply unit, which combine to make the construction printing process as much automated as possible and almost eliminate the human factor. This equipment is unique and has no analogs in the world today. Appy's core is compact dimensions, high printing speed, ease of transport, and maximum automation of the system. Commissioning on site takes no more than an hour. With so many advantages, the 3D printing technology easily accounted for competition with traditional methods of construction. The testing was successful, and the technology is ready for mass use.
Okay, I'm going to leave you now with 3 examples. This one is an actual bridge that is built in Holland. No human hands, no concrete, all done through 3D printing and those arms. This I quite like. It's this self-repairing concrete. I don't know, probably some of you are using it already. This one I particularly like because I'm very green. This is a smog-eating building. So the materials they've got on the outside of that building actually eat the smog out of the air. So there are good things about the technology. But so there are people who are very excited about this and many positive things about this, but there are also frightening things. You may be one of those guys standing in the queue. These students that we just saw, you may be one of those guys standing in the queue and having to be competing with these because this is actually a reality.
In the chill of Davos, Switzerland this year, World Economic Forum participants are concerned about innovating responsibly. Research related to mastering the fourth industrial revolution warns that increasingly high-tech changes threaten to eliminate millions of people's jobs.
I'm frightened because are we going too fast? Is our changes too exponential? As an architect of this revolution, or is there any architect that have you planned for societal changes? Have you planned for human capital enablement? Have you planned for security?
19th century steam revolutionized first transportation, then factories. Then last century digital technology overtook analog.
The World Economic Forum has described the fourth industrial revolution as a tsunami of technological advances that will transform our economy. But what of the impact on the labour market? Where will the work come from for all those people now doing jobs that will disappear as they're replaced by machines?
Policymakers are looking at worst-case scenarios of technology making people's skills obsolete, economically devaluing them.
Let's look at the scale of the problem that is in front of us. We already have 200 million people unemployed. Half the world's workforce is surviving on just a couple of dollars a day, and they're classified in the informal sector. Now, you put on top of that this digital revolution that is taking place and the impact on jobs. And all the statistics that we see alarm us.
The challenge is to ensure that new technologies benefit the greatest possible number of people so that the revolution is peaceful.
Okay, so you've already seen a little bit of Sam the bricklayer, but now I'm going to show you a video that talks about him, but they also have interviews with people in the construction industry about the impact, again, on jobs.
In Congress today, a House subcommittee approved draft legislation that would allow manufacturers to put up to 100,000 driverless vehicles per year on the road. It's a step towards robots replacing us behind the wheel and phasing out taxi and truck drivers. That's a ways off, but there's one robot named Sam who doesn't need anyone's permission to operate. Sam is a bricklayer and is very good at its job.
This is Sam. It's a robot put together with off-the-shelf parts by a company called Construction Robotics. It looks more like a chest freezer than C-3PO, but it can lay more than 3,000 bricks a day once it gets going. The best human masons can do about 1,000. And Sam never makes mistakes or gets tired. The company has 6 of them, building walls across America.
The efficiency on construction sites has been very stagnant or declined in the last 20, 30 years, whereas manufacturing efficiency has increased significantly. And a lot of that is due to robotics and technologies. We looked at a lot of different applications and tried to hone in on areas where you had repetitive motion, there's a lot of physical activity.
What are the pieces that make it up, and how do they work together to help it lay a wall?
We have some sensing technology that looks at a laser that's mounted to the wall on the story pole system, corrects for the movement on the scaffold, puts the brick right where it's supposed to go. We have a mortar system that tempers the mortar, measures the mortar, and applies the mortar to the brick. We have a bunch of electronics, a bunch of sensors, and then onboard power. That's all there is to it.
The day I was there, Sam laid a record 3,267 bricks in 8 hours, though the robot still requires at least 2 human beings to do finishing work and feed it bricks and mortar as it moves along the scaffold. Overall, the robot has laid 50,000 bricks on the site since June 1st. So if we're looking at a construction site in 15, 20 years, how does it look different to this?
There'll probably be maybe a little bit less workers, but really it's about smarter and more efficient equipment.
Does that give you any pause when you develop robots?
We look at job site robots in particular as really a way to augment the worker.
But I mean, with respect, every industry that starts to automate has that same line. They say it's going to augment the worker. And of course, for a little while, it does augment the worker.
Sure.
But in 5 years' time, if you have your way, if your robot is so much more efficient and so much more cost efficient, maybe that augmentation slips into something a little different.
There's a huge amount of variation on a job site, and I see humans continuing to be part of the loop for a long time.
The truth about robots is that nobody completely knows when or even how they will start to truly affect the economy. The consulting company McKinsey said earlier this year that more than half of the US economy could be automated by 2055. But that prediction, McKinsey warned, might be out by 20 years in either direction. Those on the front lines, the masons on the site, had very different views about Sam.
How many brick can you lay in a day by yourself?
Roughly right here, we're talking about 900.
And have you seen the robot up there?
That machine is good for long walls, but I don't see long walls anymore. Right now, architects and everybody is concentrating to have difficult jobs, small pieces.
Does it worry you?
Not really. I think the robot is not too fast, too many men to take care of the machine. By the time you set all the electrics and all this stuff, it's taking too much time. I don't know how many years we're gonna be taking to before we lose. Yeah, it's gonna be a long time.
Are you worried about your job in the future?
Así como inventaron ahora esta máquina, es probable que en el futuro inventen otra cosa, otra máquina que ayude a la misma máquina a alimentar el.
Peter's told me that Sam has doubled in speed in the few years that Construction Robotics has been working on it, and that the company is currently building other robots to augment repetitive construction jobs.
There will be a tipping point where you almost can't compete with the robots, I think, from an efficiency standpoint. And in order to do a job to any level of efficiency of any scale or size, you will need the robots to be able to achieve that.
Do you understand why that might be a little unsettling to a mason?
Absolutely. The bottom line is that young people don't want to go into masonry. They don't want to go into these hard, difficult, dangerous tasks that people, 50 years ago would absolutely love to go into.
And do you think robots can fill that gap?
In some cases, they may completely fill it, but I think there'll be other opportunities for different style careers in construction as time goes on. It's just the job looks a little bit different going down the road because it's interacting with a robot.
What everybody's telling us is that we have to find meaningful work alongside technology. Because at the moment we are using technology for our purposes, but in the new world of work that situation is going to be reversed, in which the technology is actually going to determine what's going to happen. So we have to develop the skills that make us relevant so that the technology can augment the work that we do. So let me talk then specifically about jobs. Okay, what we know, major disruptions in labour markets in all industries. And maybe the statistics that we heard again yesterday are already an indication of we are actually, I think the important point that a lot of speakers, videos and research does, is that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So don't think this is something that is coming, we are here. If you have a cell phone that you can use for Google and you can call an Uber, you are in the fourth industrial revolution. So it's not something that's lying out there, it is there already. Job losses, especially where productivity can be greatly improved through technology, standardized kind of repetitive jobs that you can give easily to a robot to do. Now, interesting, 75% of the trading at the New York Stock Exchange is already not done by human beings. Now, I find that shocking because I would have thought that those people with the financial experience can strike as much as they want about job losses. It is as meaningful as striking because the sun is coming up tomorrow morning. Job losses are a reality of the future. We have to deal with it and see how we're going to work around that. We had a job summit recently, and I so wished it could be a work summit, because there's lots of work, and we have to get people's mind changes to say, I'm going to go to university and then I'm going to find a job. Yes, go to university, but then look for work, because there's a lot of work there. And what we need to do is we need to have that shift between work and jobs, because job losses are a reality. Many new jobs were created in digital industries, but for people with high-level skills. I would do a lot of work in municipalities, local economic development, and they don't have those basic skills that are going to take them into this fourth industrial revolution. So we need to up the specialized skills. And of course, re-education for all of us working, for all of us, develop new skills, looking at the skills that you already have and whether they are still relevant for the new world of work. Essential Jobs World Bank did this study in 2016 and said this is how automation is going to impact on our jobs. South Africa 67%, Nigeria 85%, UK is doing a bit better, 35%. So these are predictions, as one of the previous videos said. Yes, there are predictions because nobody knows for certain. But if you look at all of these predictions together, really, even if you take the minimum row, then at least we have we have to seriously address these kinds of issues and prepare for this major impact. So existing occupations will definitely disappear. Many of those occupations are already disappearing. You saw in the video about the people at the airport and the check-in counters. A lot of those jobs are travel agents are already losing their jobs. So what it also means is the end of fixed job descriptions. For you who still have these fixed job descriptions and the nice performance, neat performance system that links into the job description, maybe it's time for you to rethink that, because many people are actually working in different kinds of jobs. We are going into far more kind of hybrid jobs where you are going to have to work different things together. You're going to do project management plus finance plus engineering plus digital together, rather having, and that's one of the problems with our education system, is we are training people to be engineers or project managers, and you also identified that issue previously. So we tend to work on these silos, but the new jobs are going to be far more integrated. And of course, working through temporary cross-functional project teams. So a lot of work is going to be, with virtual communication now. I mean, many of you we can work with people in Germany and America and all over the world any time of the day, because you don't actually need to physically be with them. So major impact in the nature of work. Death of the office, you probably need in your organization to look, except for the construction guys, is how many of your people actually do need to come to work. Because many of us actually can be quite productive sitting in our office, in our dining room with our pajamas on, having coffee quite peacefully and working. Because we have, I think what I'm also trying to say is that we have to understand that the whole world of work is changing. Our whole concept of what it is to work, what it is to go to the office to work. Because we're still stuck in that mentality that people have to be at the office at 8 o'clock, because we assume they're going to be far more productive if they sit at the office from 8 until 5, which probably many of your staff will be far more productive if they're working at home from 4 o'clock in the afternoon and having a snooze in the afternoon. From 4 o'clock in the morning, and having a snooze in the afternoon. So also the shifts in employment relationships, because we're going into a world where there's far more informal relationships between employer and employee. I haven't had an employer for 20 years, but I've been blessed enough to have work every single day. So many of us already work in that environment. So I'm part of the gig economy. I love that. The gig economy, which says you get paid for the gig that you do. So Uber, for example, the Uber drivers get paid for the gig that they do. If they don't work, they don't get paid. Taste Neighborhood, for many of you know the concept of Taste Neighborhood, where women bake and they sell their stuff in the shop. If you don't bake, you don't eat. If you don't bake, you don't earn. So this is linked to this whole concept of changing the idea about jobs and about work. There's a hell of a lot of work out there. We need to stop thinking that I'm going to have to find a job and stop protesting about job losses, because it's just stupid. Convert people's minds into finding work. So this flexible on-demand, but what is important is that we have to train people, we have to give people the skills to be able to do that. Because if you have an engineering degree or you have an accountancy degree and you think you're going to be working in account for the next 20 years, I've got news for you. There's a wonderful Deloitte study that said if you are studying at the moment, if your child at school is thinking of a career that exists at the moment, they're already on the wrong path. So the advice that you give your children cannot be study for this career or that career, because by the time they finish school, that career will no longer exist. And so even the ILO in 2015, because we tend to think most people are working in permanent employment, but they're actually not. They said actually 6 out of 10 workers worldwide are actually working part-time in temporary employment, such as myself working in my pajamas in my office. So some of the predictions, 65% of the children who are in school now, they are entering jobs that won't exist. And these children who are now at school, they will have, when they say 14 different jobs, they don't mean 14 different jobs working for different insurance companies. They mean they're going to be in construction and insurance and IT and all sorts of different jobs, varied jobs, as jobs change and new jobs emerge, these people. So of course, we also have to learn, teach people the skills to be able to be flexible, to be able to move from different work contexts seamlessly. So a lot of people write about this, the basket of skills. So each of us will have to have a basket of skills. And if a project comes along and they're looking for somebody who's got those specific financial skills, yes, they can use you. If they want those specific skills, then they can use you. So that kind of flexibility that we have to have in terms of our skills development system. So these are frightening statistics. The amount of technical information probably is no longer doubling every 2 years, maybe probably every 1.5 years. So as these students were saying, very interesting what they were saying, because they were confirming that most of what they learned at university is actually relevant by the time they graduate. So the question is, why are we still doing this? If we know, and that's what those students said. They said they find when they get to the workplace, most of what they've learned is irrelevant because they are already in the fourth industrial revolution. But we keep doing the same thing, hoping that somehow things are going to change. The last one for me is actually most frightening. They say 80% of the technology that we're going to be using in 2030. Now remember, 2030 is like, what? 10, 12 years from now. So all of us hopefully are still going to be around. They haven't even been conceptualized yet, so it's not a better cell phone, it's not a better microphone. We don't even know what that technology is going to be like. So the question is, how do we prepare ourselves for this world that we don't know what it's going to be like? These are the kinds of skills that they say we're all going to be needing, and this is what we should be teaching our children: creativity, innovation, complex problem solving, change resilience, to be able to cope with all of this. Technological literacy, I mean, if you can't read and write, and if you're completing matric with a 30% maths, in maths literacy, I have news for you, that you're going to have to re-skill yourself because you're not going to be able to function in this new world of work. So the question is, what are we going to do with these people who are not going to be able to be skilled in the new world of work? Transdisciplinarity comes across all the time. The ability to work across disciplines, not only in the one discipline that you were taught in. Okay, and entrepreneurial skills, again, creating your own work and not finding jobs. And when you talk about deep learning skills, nobody ever writes about learning for credits on the National Qualifications Framework. Unfortunately, we have an illness in our society where people are not prepared to learn anything and employers are not prepared to support any training if it doesn't give you credits on the National Qualifications Framework. Now that would be nice, and it's nice for BE points, etc., but I'm sorry, but most of the training that you're going to do for credits on the NQF is not going to take you into the new world of work. So let's look at some of the key challenges. So the question is, how do you actually teach creativity, innovation, and transdisciplinarity in the education system that we have? That is actually very nice and rigid. It takes around about 4 years for a university qualification to be developed and to be approved. Then the students take 4 years to go through the qualification. By the time the students register, if they're lucky, it's 8 years since the initial qualification was conceptualized. So we have to really rethink our whole education system. So these students with 30% maths, students who have no science, no technology. I hear there's a very noble thing now. Students are now all going to be forced to study history. I don't have a problem with history, but maybe history is not going to be the thing that's going to take you in the fourth industrial revolution. The other thing is, what should you be teaching people if you don't know what jobs they're going to be? If you don't know what skills they're going to be? So I mean, these are really serious questions. And unfortunately, I don't find people in the education system actually making decisions on confronting these issues. I was fortunate to be in a close conversation with senior people from the Department of Higher Education and Training where I mentioned some of these things. And they said, no, our system is really, really geared towards this, and we don't need to make any changes. So what skills should new entrants acquire if we don't know what jobs there'll be? And then what skills, strategies do we need in our organizations nationally, if we are going to prepare people for these? And then what I basically believe is that your human resource development system, your skills development strategies to prepare you is not going to, you're not going to achieve your objectives if you are getting stuck on CETA grants, NQF credits, BE grants, BE scorecard. I'm not saying those things are wrong. What I'm saying, if you're focusing your skills development strategy on those issues, I don't think you're going to prepare your staff for the new world of work. I have to rush because she wants me to finish. The new skills system is really focused on the second and the third industrial revolution skills. Those are the kinds of occupations that we are developing and that we are training people in, even training people to be scorecard. I'm not saying those things are wrong. What I'm saying, if you're focusing your skills development strategy on those issues, I don't think you're going to prepare your staff for the new world of work.
I have to rush because she wants me to finish. The new skills system is really focused on the second and the third industrial revolution skills. Those are the kinds of occupations that we are developing, that we are training people in, even training people to be automobile and marine operators. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen any of those factories of BMW, etc., where you've got people in the crash painting the cars. It's actually done by robots. But we are still developing those qualifications. So what experts say, we are currently preparing students for jobs that don't exist, to use technology that hasn't even been invented yet, in order to solve problems that we don't even know are solved problems. And I can't say it better than Ken Santa. So what do we need to do? I'm going to go through this quickly. You have to look at your workforce readiness. Who's ready for this new world? What are you going to do with the rest of the people in your organization? We have to stop looking at skills audits of the past, but look at future skills audits. What are the future skills that we're going to need? You have to revise your current skills and training strategies. We have to look at a different way of teaching. We have to teach people different things, but we have to teach them in a different way. For example, you can now get a Harvard degree through a MOOC, massive open online courses, but we still build universities because we think you have to go to a building where you have a professor who teaches you. You don't have to do that. You can actually sit in your pajamas. It sounds like I sit in my pajamas most of the time, which is not true. What is incredibly important, and what is the most important thing about this forum, is that we have to use professional bodies to get government to wake up. Because you need to interact with the CETAs, you need to interact with government to say, I was going to say really good, but trouble is coming and we have to prepare because it's going to hit the fan very, very soon if it hasn't hit it yet. So we have to prepare people for this new world of work. I'm not going to show you this video, it's also a very lovely video, but I will end.
If you're watching this,
she wants me to stop, and so I will just end with this one. It's 4 minutes.
Yes, yes. Watch it. Watch it.
She says no. What we will do is when I'm finished, we will eat lunch after my talk. And then when we move to lunch, I'll play it, and then those who want to run to lunch can run, otherwise no. So that's the end of my presentation.